Well, Anthony, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Let's dive straight in with the Asian Cup taking place in January next year, and Bahrain in the same group as the UAE. How are preparations going for that tournament?
It's good. We started a while back. The qualifications were very good. We had strong performances and good results. So we arrive at this stage very confident. And now it's just a case of following all the opposition in the Asian Cup, and in particular the teams in our group. The planning in terms of camps and preparation games and friendlies and just everything leading up to the tournament is crucial now. But so far we're in a really good position. We've got everything organised. We've got all our planning and scheduling all done. So now we can just really focus on the football side of things.
On the one hand, you've avoided the big Asian sides like Australia and Japan who contested the last final. But on the other side of the coin, it's a very tight group. They're all sides that you know well. Who's the favourite? Presumably Iran, because they're the highest ranked side. And how do you rate your chances of getting out of the group?
Well, I think if you look at all the groups, I mean, whichever group we were going to be in, and I think this really does go for every team. I don't think there's any easy group. I don't think there's any easy game in this competition. So we're quietly confident, quietly happy. We know every game is going to be a massive challenge. The favourites, of course, on paper are going to be Iran. I think it'll be very interesting to see how they do in the World Cup. I mean, they're a very good team, fantastic coach, fantastic manager, great experience, and but if they have a good tournament, that could just really set them up for the rest of the year. And if they don't do too well, it could have negative effects. So, we see a lot of things could happen after the World Cup with lots of different teams, but. I think the group is very tight, but anyone can beat anyone, in one game in a tournament like this. And you really don't, if you can win one game, if you can win your first game and just pick up another point here and there, you've got a great chance. And I think for us, we know where we are in terms of level and quality. And I think if we can just be better than other teams in every single other department in terms of preparation and organisation and team spirit and all these areas that we're working very hard in, we give ourselves a very good chance at doing well.
What do you make of the UAE specifically? They've really gone from strength to strength, haven't they, under Mehdi Ali since their success at London 2012?
I love them. I love UAE. I love watching them play. I think that the coach is fantastic. They've got some real quality players, and they play a really, really good style of football. As I say, I've all the teams in the Middle East. I really enjoy watching UAE play. So it's going to be a real tough game, a real enjoyable game. They did very well in the Gulf Cup here in Bahrain. Exciting to watch. Some real exciting individuals. I remember after the tournament, I was telling people back home about certain key players that you got to keep an eye on. So. We know that's going to be another real tough game. But as I say, if we can be prepared, if we can know our opposition inside out, we get our own house in order. We've got a chance against anyone in this region, in this tournament. So, as I say, we're not getting carried away. We're just going to keep working on ourselves and just quietly keep improving.
Now you've chosen a training base already in Ballarat in Australia. What was the logic behind that?
Well, we looked at many different things. We looked at camping in New Zealand prior to that. We just wanted, we thought it would be good to be away from, the media and the press and all the stuff that goes on before the tournament. We thought that would be better for our group. We've got a lot of young players in the group. And we looked at many things. We looked at the humidity levels in Melbourne, which is where our first game is, which were sort of comparable to New Zealand. And there's lots of things that go into it. The amount of travel, we would have flown a long way to get over there. Then it would have been flights within New Zealand for our friendly matches. And then it's another flight to Australia. So we just took, with everything, taking everything into consideration, we just felt that Melbourne was the best place to be for us. to camp. We've chosen a really nice location, peaceful, quiet. There's stuff going on, and most importantly, the training facilities there are first class. So, with all that and the temperature, the humidity levels, which are very, very high in this time of year, it gives us a good, gets us accustomed to the area, the climate, and I think sets us up well for our first game. And we'll be able to get at least one friendly match in the stadium where we play our first game, which will be very good for us.
And how are you planning on acclimatising to that heat? Obviously, anyone in Bahrain is used to playing in reasonably sticky conditions, but the humidity levels between the Middle East and Australia will still differ. And much of the chat at the moment is how sides like England are going to acclimatise in Brazil and how European sides haven't managed to succeed in World Cups on South American soil. But given, as I say, that most that play in your team have done a lot of football in the Middle East, do you see any problems in the transition over to Australia in terms of the humidity?
Well, I think it could be a really big problem if we didn't do it correctly. The humidity levels in January in Australia are really, really difficult. This World Cup we'll see. We've been watching all the friendlies, and I've been really interested to see, when teams have gone over to, America and South America and where they played their friendlies and who against, the type of opposition they played against. And I've just been really curious to see, I wonder why they're playing them now, and I wonder why they're going late or early to America or this place or that place. And I think time will tell, and it'll be very interesting this tournament to see which teams do acclimatise. But for us, I just think we've got to get to Melbourne quickly, earlier, and have a good period there where we can get... I think the biggest thing is going to be the climate and also the environment. A lot of our players, we're obviously, from the Middle East going to Australia, different culture, different way of life, climate. So I think the quicker we can get there, get settled in, there's going to be no surprises for us. I think these little things are very important to help us just settle into the surroundings, and so when we arrive in the first, the first few days before our first game, we take everything on our stride, and there's going to be no real surprises from the players. And I think for us that's the best way to get there early and get settled in.
Let's talk a bit about you on a personal level. How are you enjoying life managing the Bahrain national team? And have you made the transition comfortably from under-23 level, where you enjoyed great success in the Gulf Cup, to taking charge of the full international side?
Yeah. Well, in terms of being in Bahrain, it's really... I love the place. I love the country. I love the people here. I know, when the time comes, and when I look back on my time here, it's going to be with a huge amount of affection, and it's been a really special period of my life. It's one of those where you don't want it to end, but in football these things do happen. But it really is amazing. I love it. I love working with the players. We've got some fantastic young players coming through, which have been just really, really enjoyable to work with, and what they've given us, the coaching staff, the amount of effort that they give us, and the tournaments that we've had, and the moments we've had have just been really, really special. So the transition has been quite simple, really. It's just all seemed to fit. It's all seemed quite natural. I haven't really had to worry too much about anything. It's all seemed quite... This is sort of a natural progression. I've been here, a long time. I know all the teams in the leagues. I know all the players. I know the senior team. I know the young players. I know the players coming up below the Olympic team. We've done very well. We've obviously, as you say, we've won the Gulf Cup with the under-23s, and we've now come in and we've qualified for the Asian Cup. We've taken the bronze medal at the West Asian tournament, and during this period, we're now bedded in a style of play and bringing a real identity to the team, which I really truly believe the players love. And I know ultimately when we take it to the next level, the players are going to love it even more, and it's going to bring us success, and it's going to give the country something to be really proud of. I think that is our goal, and that's something I think about every day. It's, we want to produce a team that plays a style of football that the people here can be proud of. Obviously, we winning football, consistent football, organised, but a style of football that the people enjoy watching, and most of all, the players enjoy playing. And that's the lines we're going down. And so just to, the whole experience from the first moment of coming here to now, I really am massively in love with Bahrain. It's been a great experience, and I believe we can have a lot of success. And I think we can, in the next 6 to 12 months, we can really get people sitting up in pants.
Clearly, you're not looking to leave at this stage, but I know you're a very ambitious person, and on the one hand, you'll be looking, I would guess, further than the Asian Cup and qualifying for Russia 2018, which I presume is a very realistic goal. But by the same token, you must also have aspirations in the long run to either move on to, with all due respect to Bahrain, a bigger international job or back into domestic football.
Yeah. Well, as you say, I am very ambitious, and I do have my goals and big dreams that I think about every day, and these are to be competing at the very highest level in Champions Leagues and World Cups is where I believe I'll be and where I want to be, and really it's what wakes me up every day in the morning and allows me to put in hours and hours of study and work and drives me. And but where I've got one firm eye on the future and long term, the most important thing is right now and Bahrain, and every single minute of my day that I put into what I do and the study and the professional development and the time that we all, and my staff as well, the staff here are absolutely first class, and all of us, we do all of this because it's about right now. It's about Bahrain now. So where I definitely have one firm eye on the future and where I want to be, and there's no, it's very clear and there's no doubts in that where I want to go. The most important thing right now is Bahrain, and as you say, I really believe that if we can continue just improving very very steadily and keeping consistent and applying our beliefs and being very passionate and having lofty goals and doing things for the country, that wanting to do things for the right reasons, I think we can really progress and take Bahrain to places we've never been before. And at the end of the day, if we don't have those dreams, there's no point in us doing it. So yes, you're right. I have a big ambition for the future, but right now, this is, Bahrain is my life at the moment.
And you've been very studious in learning your trade. Presumably Peter Taylor was a big influence when he was at Bahrain, but you've also shadowed Jose Mourinho and more recently been on a very intriguing trip to Argentina. Tell me more.
Well, I've done it since I started coaching over 13, 14 years ago. Every spare week, I don't think I've had a holiday in, I can't remember when I've had a holiday. It must be over 10, 11 years ago when I was a player. But, every spare week or 2 weeks or holiday I've ever had, I've always gone in and studied and watched and taken time to go and learn from other coaches. And you mentioned Peter Taylor. Peter Taylor's been a big influence, and he's a top manager, and most importantly, he's a really good man and someone I loved to work for. He's just one of those men that was very straight and honest and a good manager, and he left a big impression on me. And just recently, I had the pleasure of going to Argentina to visit Marcelo Bielsa. He's a coach that has probably changed my world in terms of football. Many years ago, when he was, with Argentina and Chile, and then most recently with Athletic Club Bilbao. You know, he's really changed my view on football, and I've just watching his teams, I've sort of fell in love with how his teams play, and learning about his values as a coach, and you know, the effect he has on the places he works in, and the effect he had on Chile and the whole country, and you know, he's got some really strong values as a coach. I went to see him last year in Bilbao. I went and spent a week there and watched him train and prepare for a game, and was completely blown away. And then obviously this recent trip to Argentina, I went to visit his home in Rosario, and spent a day there, and it was the most amazing trip of my life. And I feel very fortunate to be able to do something I love and I'm very passionate about, and to be able to go and spend time with someone that I have a huge amount of respect for, and something I'm very passionate about. It's just an amazing thing to be able to do.
This just isn't the done thing, though, certainly not for an up-and-coming young British manager to have spent time with all of these top names. There's also Harry Redknapp as well, let's not forget, during your time at Spurs, and Mourinho we've mentioned already. And I guess it works both ways, that you want to learn from them, but if they didn't have the faith that you were going to become a top manager, they wouldn't entertain the time with you.
Well, I think the kid, when I was very young, I used to, when you look at managers getting roots into management and finding big, at the highest level, and you look at their careers and you read their biographies and you try and learn what they've done and how they've done it, and I think it would be quite easy to be in a position and just say, well, listen, they're where they are because they've got a name, or they're where they are because they worked under this top manager and they've just had things go their way. And I don't believe in that. I think there's if you're passionate and you really love something and you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. And I've just found I've always been very open to learning and going out and studying. And I learned Spanish 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, I still have three Spanish lessons a week. And it's important to me because I want to go and study Spanish football and Latin football, and one day I believe I'll work with Spanish players, and I want to learn another language. And so looking at the top managers and finding out what they do and what they've got, I think these things are all very important. And the key thing for me is my philosophy, my playing philosophy is something I think about 24 hours a day. I study 24 hours a day, and it's evolving. It's been evolving for years now. I'm very passionate about it, and these trips and going to, watching certain teams that catch your eye on TV, and then to go and visit the manager and find out how they teach and find out their philosophy. I mean, they give me a great amount. So as I say, I don't think I've had a holiday in many years, but it's all been worth it. I mean, the trip over to Argentina, it was I think maybe a 14-hour flight to get there. It was a long trip. I've been working very hard. I just got a week off, and so I decided to go there. But I would have flown around the world 2 or 3 times just to go and have the same meeting. It was incredible.
Do you think more people should be telling the story of Anthony Hudson, particularly back in your native England? Because there's not that many British managers in international football. You and Roy Hodgson at the moment are about the only two that spring to mind. But presumably you feel when jobs come up, whether domestically in the Championship or the Premier League or internationally, you were linked briefly with the Denmark vacancy, you're perhaps not considered because although you're doing great things in Bahrain, perhaps the story out there doesn't get enough exposure for you back home.
Yeah. I don't know, Ben. It's difficult for me. I've never really been one to, worry, try and tell other people or think other people should be doing things a certain way. Football management is a really, as we know, a very precarious business, and it's a very difficult business. It's an amazing business, and all I know is I can only find my own way, and I try and every day think what works for me and what can help me, what can help my team, what can help the players, and I just find my own way. So it's difficult. I couldn't say that other people should do more of what I'm doing. What I only look at is what else can I be doing that could probably make me, that could improve me or could help me. But I do know. I think probably on the terms of just going abroad, I think would help British coaches, absolutely. I think that would it's a great, it's been a great experience for me. I would recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, do you kind of feel that if you're a young up-and-coming manager and you don't go abroad, then you're going to, unless possibly you're a huge name as a player, and thus you can take a Ryan Giggs-style route and find yourself as the interim manager of Manchester United. But that aside, most young coaches would have to start in the lower leagues. And do you feel that British football is just a bit too cutthroat to potentially learn your trade? You get one perspective, it's hugely dominated by the media at all levels as well. So going somewhere like Bahrain possibly just allows you to focus on football and football alone.
Yeah. As I say, it's, England's a very different, football-wise, it's very different than quite a lot of countries. I mean, there's no other country in Europe where, there's no English owners of clubs that go and invest in clubs in other countries. We only get foreign owners coming to England. We don't get English owners go elsewhere. And these lots of little things and the amount of money, they just make England a very different type of place. And I think if you look at it now, it's very uncommon for British managers to be even considered for top Premier League jobs. Regardless of getting the jobs, he's even considered for the jobs. So I think instead of getting resentful towards it or even disagreeing with it, I think we have to look at what the Premier League clubs want. What would the presidents be looking for? It's now become a real. It is a business, and it's very media orientated. It's all about the fans, style of play, football, all these things. And I think instead of really looking at what's wrong with it, I think as a coach, if you want to progress, you've got to try and figure out what presidents at the highest level are looking for, and then you've got to go and try and put yourself in a position that you would become attractive, or at least have all the tools to be able to fulfil what those top clubs are looking for. So that's really where my eyes are set, and I think you've just got to put yourself in a position where you can have European experience, you speak different languages, your style of play is a style of play that brings results but also entertains the fans. All these things I think are very important, to be able to work at the highest level.
And just finally, Anthony, 2 questions on the World Cup. First of all, what can you learn as an international manager watching a tournament like Brazil 2014 from the sidelines?
Oh, well, I can learn so much. I mean, I'm watching all the friendlies now, and you just, it's, as I say, it's going to be very interesting to see how the teams do based upon their friendlies. Lots of teams, big teams, have rested big players. Some teams have played their big players. Some have got injuries to big players. All these things that I think that we're trying very hard now to study on why are they getting injuries? Why are these players on the bench? Why is he resting these? So the outcome, obviously, in the tournament will be very, very interesting for us. Style of play, the teams that do well, how they playing and how they doing what they're doing. Especially in relation to the climate. Obviously, we have to follow all the teams from Asia, which is a great opportunity for us to do that. And also how coaches and players, how they manage the tournament, how they manage the media, how they the type of rest they give their players, how they make their substitutions and at what times. There is so much to learn from this tournament for us, so it's going to be really, really exciting.
And last up, I'll put you on the spot. The big question: who's going to win the World Cup?
Well, I've said all along Brazil. But as I say, all these, watching all these games, no one's. There's been some real quality on show, but no one's really convinced me up until now. But it's very difficult. You can't base anything on friendlies because players don't want to get injured and players are being rested. But I think Brazil are definitely the favourites. If they can be a team, if they can really be a team and not individuals, if they can really get their team spirit going, which they've got every chance to now. They've got the whole country behind them and the passion and the support they'll have in the stadiums. If they can be a team, a real strong team, I think Brazil will win the World Cup.
Great stuff, Anthony. We'll enjoy the World Cup, and thanks for your time.
No problem. Thank you, Ben. Good to speak to you.